Friday morning, can't control it. Fired up and counting every minute. Hands are shaking, eyes are burning. The time has come, yeah, this is not a warning. The week was just so long, we had to let it go. Our problems disappeared, we're not tied up anymore. The weekend is here. Sunday calls, we are sick and tired of it. Up and down, can you feel it? Up and down.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Johansson show. It's Kat. Today, got a special guest. He is the Middle Eastern millionaire, Sheikh El Sham. Sheikh, thank you for coming on.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Now, really excited. Already feel I know you. For those listening, we've already been speaking for about half an hour on the call, anyways, just before we started hitting record. Which is also good. Hopefully, the chemistry will kick in for the viewers listening. But yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, man. I mean, thank you, mate.
Well, you've got quite a lot of exciting stuff coming up. So before we get into your wrestling career, tell everybody about your clothing brand that you've just launched. I know I've been seeing, I think it was Lizzie Evo and RJ Singh wearing it as well, and it's in all your training videos. So tell everybody about that, that new venture.
So, I've been quite a gym freak for many years, and I always thought it'd be absolutely amazing to have some sort of clothing you could wear to the gym, as in sort of, a brand that could just represent you working out.
Yeah.
So just kind of put my head together with one of the lads I work quite closely with, and we've tried to see if we can come up with a really nice, smart design, where you can work out with sort of panache at the same time and have comfort, and just for it to be quite durable as well. That was the aim behind it more than anything. A little bit plain, a little bit simple, but just to notice a little bit, so somebody might look over at you whilst you're on the cross trainer, or whilst you're on the bench press, and think, oh, he looks a little bit sharp for the gym. Do you know what I mean? I just think as well, it just having a sort of a brand that can target one specific market, it's recognition as well.
Yeah. Ah, brilliant. What's the reception been like from some of your peers that have been trying it out?
They've really sort of enjoyed it in terms of they've expressed that the comfort on it in particular is really, really comfortable, and also just the design, just a sort of sleeker there. I was a little bit concerned really by at the beginning when I was creating the design, a number of names and sort of brands are going through my head. I'm saying, I don't really want to be copying anyone or cross branding anyone or anything like that. And then it just kind of clicked. So I've been working as the Sheikh gimmick in wrestling. Let's just transfer that across into sort of gym wear, and that's where sort of Sheikh wear kind of came up in that sense. So fingers crossed. Obviously with the pandemic going on, there's probably going to be a little bit of a backlog of launching and stuff like that, really. But yeah, just fingers crossed it all goes to plan, and then we aim to go into a lot of different a variety of gym wear. I think people have just seen the sort of snapbacks, the jackets, the t-shirts, and the shorts. But we're aiming to take it, seeing how this goes. We're trialing sort of this batch, and then for the next batch, we'll see if we can take it further into specific areas within working out. So.
Yeah. What's the goal? Is it always just doing things online, or are you hoping to try and get into these different sportswear stores?
I think that'd be absolutely fantastic, if we could. But it has always just been something where I wanted to make it more exclusive.
Yeah.
Where you can't just walk into, I don't know, somewhere like Sports Direct and think, oh yeah, I can pick a Sheikh wear sort of t-shirt. I just think having something exclusive makes it more You know, people want it more, don't they? And you kind of feel a little bit more thinking, you know, I bought this from a specific sort of place. But fingers crossed, we can see how it works out in future. So.
Nah, I get what you mean. Like, if there's only a few people wearing it, and everybody that's wearing it, especially with your background in wrestling, a lot of it will be like wrestlers and other body athletes and things like that. So when people are seeing those kind of people wearing it at the gym, it's obviously going to get their attention. Whereas if it's and like, no disrespect, because I'd probably fall in that category, but any average Joe that had come in, maybe doing their New Year's resolution or something like that, wearing it, I get what you mean. Like, you want it to where people are, it's going to stand out, and then they're going to try and find where it's from.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I want it to be able to, when we were looking at sort of the garments in particular, people don't know this way. You look at certain fabrics. You know, you look at certain sort of manufacturers in regards to wear and tear. When I mean sort of durability, I mean in things of, okay, are you able to lift weights in it? Yeah. Is it also comfortable for you to walk on the treadmill? But are you able to get in the ring with it and then, you know, do wrestling drills? Do you know what I mean? So it was really sort of tired. And then I probably went through maybe 3 other manufacturers before I chose this specific one. And I tried and tested it myself before getting it out there. But really excited about it more than anything, because it's something I've always wanted to do alongside sort of wrestling.
Yeah. Oh no, brilliant. And again, I know we're here to talk about wrestling, but other like great opportunities you've got coming up. Is it free TV acting roles you've got coming up?
Yeah, it is. I wasn't
Oblitero was one of them.
What's that? Yes, that's
Oblitero.
correct. Yeah. It's just, I think it's been sort of manic. I never expected any of these to sort of kick off, if I'm honest with you. The all 3 roles are really pretty different. I'm just really excited. It'll be a brand new mission for me, you could say. And I'm just really excited to be part of it. They're only sort of small roles.
Yeah.
There's I think, again, sort of with COVID and everything going on, we're still doing script reads over Zoom and things like that. But production and filming dates have been pushed back, as you can imagine. But yeah, I'm absolutely chuffed. The first one was sort of the Oblitero role.
Yeah.
I was approached for that one.
So you're telling me somebody just saw one of your pictures and thought, he looks like a barbarian?
I think that's the case. I think that's originally what it was. There's no it's a lot of action in that role. There's not many lines at all. But I'm hoping to bring take aspects. See, I've always been sort of obsessed with the sort of villains, and I think two out of the 3 roles is basically a villain. It's a villain role, both of them. That's something that I've always aspired to. You know, just being the bad guy on screen.
Yeah.
Purely because I think they have a little bit more of a. Sometimes they can have more of a presence. And I've always wanted to sort of portray a villain in a specific way and a little bit different to the sort of generic ones that you come across.
Nah, exciting to see. Sounds up my street. I like all that shit of like fucking Oblitero. Just what was it? Dual bone crushing hammers.
Yeah. So I think it's the concept that the guy he was thinking. The producer, he basically, and I said, look, what do you necessarily, what you're thinking in terms of, just so I have an image myself. And he basically said, "Go on the Barbarian with 2 hammers, just like Thor's got 1, but you're gonna have 2." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds pretty cool." And then costume wise as well, it'll be a first time for me, I think, wearing something that looks like that. If I'm honest with you, but I guess it's all for a good cause. So
No, definitely. But this is where you've been working on this like Middle Eastern millionaire gimmick. WWE will see you as a barbarian. I'm like, right, he's being a barbarian.
well, that's all we can do, can't we?
So, did you have any acting background, or is it all come through your work in wrestling? And if so, the latter, have you always found like promos and story work easy?
Do you know what? I think I've got to thank my sort of education. I was fortunate enough, and again, not many people will know this. I was fortunate enough to be. I went to a private school. I was the only brown face in this private school, which was quite interesting, actually. And then from a very young age, since primary age, we were always hit up with elocution lessons. And you might not be able to tell now, but we were always asked to read extracts from books or specific poems or just journal readings, and kind of portray them by using our voice and expressions. And then obviously, as growing up and similar to yourself, Kurt, getting into sort of coaching, you've got to be able to talk and quite project your voice quite a lot, and then transitioning into teaching. Teaching's another little bit. Sometimes you've got to do a bit of acting in teaching.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, as you know yourself, won't you? I found myself like when I started wrestling as well. I found myself like cutting promos on my kids. Do you know what I mean? just about not having handed in assignments and then homework. And I remember them at the beginning just looking at me and thinking, "Sir, where are you going with this?" Do you know what I mean? Tell us off, stop going right around the houses with it. So, but I think, and then sort of acting, I never really had any sort of acting experience at all. But I've never been camera shy either. Yeah. I've always been sort of someone. That's the bit that jumped out at me the most. Again, when it came to wrestling, apart from all the sort of big characters and some of the flashy moves that you'd see, I love the storyline aspect.
Yeah,
I love it. You can sit there for 2 hours, 3 hours and indulge into a sporting concept with entertainment in it, and you're sucked into a storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up during sort of right at the beginning of the Attitude Era, and that's what caught me. That did.
No, that's what I was like. Obviously, I was born '93, but it's all the wrestling that I used to watch, and before that as well, it'd be like the old videos of like WrestleMania 1, 2, and stuff like that. But it's those larger than life characters, and it's the storylines and the sporting aspects, like TV shows and movies that are related to sport tend to be one of the things that I go towards, like Coach Carter for basketball and Friday Night Lights for American football. I've just been working through Dream Team. Did you ever watch Dream Team on Sky One?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was class. Yeah.
So I've just managed to get them, and I think I'm up to like season 8. So whilst I'm like dealing with the little one, I'll have it on my phone just watching it while she's up late. So yeah, definitely. But one of the topics I want to touch upon then, you mentioned being the only brown face at like an all-white school. How did you find that? Because with everything that's been going on in the world, especially with Black Lives Matter and just racism in general, when I was younger, I was a lot darker on my complexion, and I've always been having the facial hair and the big bushy eyebrows, and things like that. My granddad was black South African, and from like my childhood had a little bit of like racism in, and that was being at mixed schools. How did you find with it, and do you think did you get any racism like when you was younger, and has that helped you be who you are today dealing with that?
I think it's very difficult to kind of compare. Like, it's easy now to kind of shout and use a race card and say, "Oh yeah, I was picked on," and I was. But you see, back then when I was at school, it was banter.
Yeah,
Like, it's classed as having a laugh. And I think, yeah, there's an aspect of where having a laugh can go too far.
yeah,
But if I think to what happened with me and it happening now in schools and sort of, again, being a sort of teacher and being on the other side,
yeah,
that would not be accepted at all. It would not be tolerated because of the differences in the sort of time, sort of zones, you could say.
yeah,
But yeah, man, wow. It was I think you have to be very thick-skinned. You
yeah,
have to be very thick-skinned. Primary school, secondary school, yeah, there was, bits and bats. I did get quite bits and bats of it, but I think the way I sort of handled it, it was more to not kind of react to it in a violent way or in a way where I was going to seek attention for it. And I know people deal with it in different ways, but I think this is what kind of molded me, sort of who I am. I was always thought of myself, I'm there to break barriers. So, for example, when I started playing football,
yeah,
you can imagine you don't get many Asian lads in football at all, let's be honest.
yeah,
How many actually British, Pakistani, or Indian lads do you know that play in the Premiership? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Apart from sort of, I'm not talking about people who come from sort of abroad, and you know what I mean, because there's some great footballers, but there isn't. And again, that was probably worse, being in a football changing room, getting cricket jokes,
yeah,
or I'll tell you a little time actually. We played a club from we played a club from I think it may have been wherever the club was from. I can't exactly remember, but I remember like getting quite a lot of stick from the opposition. Now, what made me feel better was the lads on sort of my team or our team, they were like sticking up for me, even
yeah,
though for them it was okay to give me stick, but if somebody else did it, they're like,
yeah,
and that kind of, it opened my eyes up that day that actually these lads, they're probably doing it as changing room banter or anything like that.
yeah,
In regards to is it right or is it acceptable? I think again it just depends who you are, especially like nowadays. With everything what's going on, you've got to be very careful with some of the things that you say. But I just think you genuinely have to be very thick-skinned in any organisation, any business, any sport. That doesn't mean you let people walk over you.
yeah,
That just means there's ignorance in the world. There's always is going to be. And some idiot's going to say something that is going to be stupid, but don't rise to it. And I don't necessarily think you always have to. And I'm sure we'll come on to this later on, but you don't always have to run to. And this is no disrespect to anyone at all, but over little minor incidents or anything,
yeah,
you don't always have to run to Twitter or social media to kind of do that.
yeah. Try and deal with it yourself a lot of the time, like.
Yeah, I mean, probably yourself as well. Like I said, you're an early '90s kid, so you're going to understand if someone did have an issue, you'd kind of have it face to face, an argument, and say, if there's something to discuss, let's sort it out, rather than, I won't say anything now, but later on, I'll make a tweet. And do you get what I mean? It's just a different. It's no. It's like you said yourself. You probably had some incidents, but if it came down to it, somebody called you out, and you've been in the football. You've been in it. You played. Was it? Is it semi-pro that you played?
Just below semi-pro. I think we was the 11th tier of English football was when we got the highest. So not too bad, because I didn't start playing football until I was 16. 16 was the first time I joined a professional, not professional, but when I joined a football team, and did quite well there. Then got signed open age, started playing like Central Midlands Football League, which is quite good considering was based around the Yorkshire area. And then I think it was by 19, I was doing my coaching badges and working at Hull City. So
you would have come across, you probably would have come across a bit of, sometimes you had a bit of a rough and tumble with someone. Yeah. You know what I mean? and what happens on the pitch stays on the pitch. And this is it. When again, I kind of see that with sort of minor stuff. I'm not talking about anything major incidents, because there's a police protocol for that. But I'm saying, there were two. And this is I'm not I'm not some sort of violent guy or anything like that. But if someone had an issue or someone took too far, you'd say, right, look, we can either sort it out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or just knock it on the head, shake hands, walk away.
My mum always used to tell me, because being the shorter guy, and again, a lot darker complexion when I was younger, I'd get quite a bit, and I'd come in crying as a kid, and she's like, right, if you don't get out there and come back, I'll hit you. And then,
and it's tough love.
Yeah, and then it was the next time the person did it, he stopped doing it because I hit him back, and it was similar things. I think I've had 2 different incidents with knives put against where it's racial slurs and things like that. And it's not as much me now. I get it now and again. I always remember walking, when I left work, and it was just I think somebody was, it was something like F off you, Packy, then whatever. I don't want to put the vanities out there. And then he tried spitting. So I just turned and what was that? And then he was like, I think you need to go back to where you come from, you're Muslim. I was like, well, which one is it? Am I Pakistani? Am I Pakistani or am I a Muslim? He was like, what? I was like, right, if you're going to use racial slurs, try and actually get clued up on it. And his face just dropped. His mate laughed at him. He just looked embarrassed. And
and you're absolutely, you're bang on, Kurt. And the fact that if you're, you know what I mean? If you've been sort of a victim of that, or if you've gone through that, do you know what I mean? I would look at you, and I wouldn't even say that you look anywhere close to being Pakistani.
Yeah.
Purely because, I know people who are Pakistani. I'm Pakistani myself, so. But you're right. I mean, this is it. Especially certain stuff when it goes, people can be quite extreme these days, and it is. I blame the media. Media twist a lot of things, especially when it. This is why I was in 2 minds, and again, we'll probably talk a little bit about this later on. But when I started doing the sort of sheikh gimmick and the turban and stuff like that, hey, there's some places I've been to where I got called a terrorist whilst walking out.
Yeah,
do you get what I mean? But by the end of my match, my aim was, I hope they feel different about me now.
Yeah.
Did you get what I mean?
And I think that's good. Although you're putting yourself in such a vulnerable place, because again, you've seen it over the past, especially 6 months more than ever. I think with the stuff that's been in America, people have been very more vocal of their racist views. But if people like yourself can go out there fully representing it, where people are going to be calling you a terrorist or every name under the sun, but then by the end of it, they're clapping and applauding your work, I think that's breaking down the barriers that we need.
And I'll be honest with you, and that's one of the reasons where, if I ask you this question about sort of how many Asian or lads do you see in football, same in terms of wrestling. There's a lot more in wrestling than there is in football, but there could be more. You know what I mean? And again, that's another sort of barrier that can be broken, and there's some history about that with myself as well, and how difficult it was for me to speak to my parents about wrestling and about getting into wrestling. Didn't go down well. Still not 100% right. You know what I mean? But
Well, they've put you in a private school, and you're like, "Thank you for the education, but I'm gonna go wrestle."
yeah, well, this is it. You know what I mean? It's classed. And people just think it's so easy. They make judgments straight away.
Yeah.
Um, and it's easy to kind of dismiss this kind of stuff. But I think it's just as important as some of the things, again, that have been spoke out about. Do you know what I mean? I know there's been a few incidents that were spoke out about in terms of racism and things like that. But it just seems to me where certain things can be sort of ignored because people don't necessarily know how it feels in terms of, again, like what we mentioned about being a box ticker.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That basically means you're on the card because of your ethnic minority.
Yeah.
Or because of your gimmick. Do you know what I mean? Again, it's all right. You know what I mean? It's let's just have a show, and let's put someone in a match who there's going to be alcohol involved, but this person's got a certain religion that provokes him from being anywhere near alcohol.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Have you been in that situation? I'm guessing, speaking from yourself, are you practicing religion?
In all honesty speaking, I'm not as strict.
Yeah.
I'm not as strict as I should be. Is the answer to that. But it's just sort of some things that you have to think about. I think sometimes,
Yeah.
because we've got to cater for people. It's part of it's inclusivity, isn't it? It's being inclusive. And I'll be honest, wrestling is it's like you're in a relationship. When you're a wrestler, you have a relationship with that ring. You have a relationship with that business.
Yeah.
But it's like a lover's relationship. You know what I mean? There's ups and downs.
Yeah.
There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be happy times and whatever. But the point I'm trying to sort of make in terms of that is why I fell in love with wrestling and why I'm still in love with wrestling is people are so accepting.
Yeah.
They are so accepting, but we still have to sort of be vigilant because everyone in every business is not always going to know about other people. There's going to be ignorance there, isn't it? Maybe it's not on purpose, not intentional. Like Kurt, you seem very clued up in terms of religion and background and the differences.
Yeah, my sister and like my brother and my nieces are all practicing Muslims. So although as a child I was christened, it's not my religion. Whereas, to be honest, if I did feel closer to any, it would be practicing Muslim. I celebrate Eid with my family. I celebrate Ramadan and stuff like that because it's what they celebrate. And like this year was the first year they didn't do the whole Christmas presents and stuff like that because they felt hypocritical. And my brother-in-law, he's done it for so long, but now when it's Eid, we're gonna go all in for the kids and stuff like that. And so it's something like I'm passionate about. And I think from obviously my sister's family, it's Turkish Kurdish background, whereas with mine is the black South African from my mum's, but then I've got Swedish and Danish from my father's side of it. So I'm quite a mixture. Like there's Romani Traveller somewhere in there as well from my granddad's side, and I think people are just ignorant, and I'm hoping that on cards.
again, this is a thing where I find it, and I'm not asking anyone to be clued up or to go and pick a religion or research into it or anything like that. But I always find as a totally different reaction. I use anyone that knows me, and when we're in the back with the lads, and I use a lot of banter when it comes to sort of my race, even to an extent to religion, with some of my close friends in the back. Why? Because I think it eases attention a little bit.
Yeah.
Because whenever I've seen people, girls and guys, I've seen girls and guys who have felt awkward, I think, or who have felt a little bit out of place because of some of the things that I've possibly said in regards to religion, my religion, and they don't know whether I'm joking or not. You know, and that might be because of my personality, because I like to have a laugh and a joke in the back. But I can see it, and they wouldn't know, the sort of difference. So it might be, for example, as you're probably aware of, there's halal food, okay, which is prohibited. You know, and sometimes I'll ask at certain venues, and I'll be straight with it. Some guys and girls think I'm taking the piss because I've asked for halal food. Did you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't think people and I'll laugh it off again purely because of being thick-skinned, but I think some people don't understand that it's a genuine thing. It's something that, you know what I mean? Just because I don't wear a mosque hat or have a long beard and wear the traditional sort of garments doesn't mean that I'm not going to follow certain rules of my religion.
Yeah.
So, as you know, as much as we need to be aware about what's gone on recently in wrestling, and we need to safeguard each other, I think that's part of it as well. You know, in an aspect. You know what I mean? What do we do if someone is absolutely blasting someone for being Muslim, or are you able to get a prayer mat out and get your prayers in
Without being judged and
yeah, you know what I mean? So it's that much. But as again, like I said, the changing rooms that I've been in, especially, I'm going to highlight All Star Wrestling in this.
Yeah.
Spot on. Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? And they've always been so like understanding, and some of the lads, they want to know, they want to learn about it.
Yeah.
They honestly, you know what I mean? And there's others, which obviously I don't want to mention, but sort of independent scenes and are not so good with it, purely because they probably don't know, they don't have enough knowledge. So
no, I'm hoping, because it's like with the speaking out thing. Obviously, wrestling does need to be cleansed. It needs to be a safer place for the talent and the fans and everybody involved. And I'm just hoping it'll make certain promoters' eyes open to the diversity side of things as well, where it's not going to be okay, we've got our females, we've got our women's match. That's okay, that's done. Have more than one women's match, or we've got our one gay person, or that anybody that's part of the LGBTQ plus community. We've got that, so that's ticked off. Right, let's get our Asian demographic. Right, that's ticked off. I'm hoping that it isn't going, because we've seen it in the speaking out. We've seen people where it's like, oh, we need somebody to fill that quota, and I'd like to think there could be people like yourself and RJ Singh, where you're on the same show but not having to work with each other, where it can be separate. And I think people need to do that. Like you mentioned, how many wrestlers fit that demographic? There isn't as many, and I'm hoping people will be like more willing to put people of these different diversities, whether it's sexual orientation or race, religion, on the shows, not having to work them immediately together because, hey, we can just do that storyline and let the wrestling do the talking.
I think that's a massive point that you just made, is have the wrestling do the talking, because again, I don't want it to be about ticking sort of specific boxes, regardless of, this is my personal opinion on this as well, Kurt. So regardless of ethnicity or sexual orientation. If you're genuinely talented enough to be booked on that show, then you should be booked on that show. Do you know what I mean? See, there's two ways now where promoters, and I feel sorry for them in a way, some promoters, because they're like rocking a hard place at them. They're like, right, do I now have to bring him or her in to show that I'm doing this? Do you get what I mean? Or am I going to get criticised now because I've brought them in and people have noticed, I've only booked him or her just because of the. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
That's gonna happen. I think we saw it with the Speaking Out when Pete Dunne was very vocal of let's make change, and there was a female wrestling fan she gets Larry at wrestling shows as well. I've seen it, but she was like, "This isn't about you. We don't need you helping us. It's got to be a woman that's helping because you can't identify." And it's like, but all the women can band together and change. But if some of the men aren't going to change, or the good men aren't going to stand by him, then there's not going to be any changes. So I think it could be the same with the company, where there will be fans that look at it and be like, well, that's not a diverse roster, or is that just he wasn't there before or she wasn't there before? Is that just to tick this certain box? I get what you mean, and I think a lot of people have to remember the geographic. I know the UK is smaller than, say, like America, but travel costs still go into it. There's people that are based way down south, whether it's Plymouth area, and they may not be used much in the north, just because the travel expenses for an independent show are going to be quite high. So if there isn't as many people that are in these like categories, I guess, then it can be harder because you still need to be sensible with business as well.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. Can I say, in terms of, so I know there was I'm aware that there was an old a show that was it an old black show that was done. I can't remember which promotion it was. I can't remember which promotion it was, but there was sort of an old sort of black show. Like, in terms for yourself, what did you think? Do you think that was good for wrestling, or do you think it kind of helped wrestling in a way of going forward, or do you think it stayed the same?
I've just tried finding it. The Black Wrestlers Matter show in America. I
think there was one here as well. There was one here as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think for myself, because again, I'm not immediately in any category. Like, if I'm filling out forms, I have to tick white British, although like my growing up may not have represented that. It's just, I think, yes, in certain terms, because it's like them taking a stand. It's like them doing their own protest of being put down. But for that to continue may not work, because again, they want inclusivity, but then they're taking themselves away. And it's same with sexual orientation. I know there's Pride Wrestling, and it's good that there's going to be a company that's going to put more spotlight on LGBTQ plus. But when I've spoken to certain people in the wrestling business that are in that category, their thoughts on it, because they wanted to do a show around this, but they don't want it to be, oh, you've got to be in this. They're more than happy for straight people to be on their show. That's to promote LGBTQ plus, because it's showing that no matter if you're in this background or not, we all support the cause. And I think that's what would be more of a stand, where it shows everybody from different markets united. So it can be for example, say a Black Lives Matter show, but there could be people like yourself and different people from different categories coming together to show that Black Lives do matter. I think that's the most important thing.
This is absolutely bang on, Kurt. What you just said, I wish more people had this mentality, because that's absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head, mate. Because the thing is, that's exactly how I felt. Because, and I thought, and that's how I feel. We need a show that's named we all bleed the same colour.
Yeah.
That's basically what we need.
Let the wrestling do the talking.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it does have, impacts because you're causing segregations.
Yeah.
You're causing segregation that doesn't need to be caused sometimes. And again, I totally understand why certain shows are taking place and things like that. But do you know what? Hats off to what you just said there, because I couldn't have put it better myself. We all need to be taking that stand together,
Yeah.
and part of it, and because we're all the same, aren't we? At the end of the day, regardless.
Exactly. I like the idea about it because it's given people work, and especially with Pride, it's based in London, and it will give people work that may not have got those opportunities before, which is fantastic. But again, and I know from their standpoint, they may not have been booked because of their sexual orientation, or certain people may not have been booked because of their race and religion, and that's wrong. And I get that. But rather than doing the same and making it so, yes, it's about yourselves, and that's great, you deserve the recognition, bring other people in and show it is about ourselves, but we're inclusive, we'll bring anybody in.
Yeah.
I think you can have the mentality of, right, I want to give ethnic minorities more of a platform, or the LGBTQ plus community more of a platform. But I'm also going to be bringing in people that don't represent them to put on the best wrestling show and show that we're all one. I think that's the best way to go about it.
Absolutely spot on, yeah.
So, what do you reckon? All-inclusive pro wrestling coming soon.
Sounds like a plan, that, doesn't it?
But I think we've spoken about quite a lot of topics without really delving into yourself, which is always fun. I think it's a lot of topics that have been needing to be spoken about. But you mentioned like the All-Star guys, how you got in. So you got in a little bit later. How did you get into wrestling?
Well, so like I said, I played football for many years, 11-a-side football, and then I didn't score very often, but when I did score, there'd always be wrestling celebrations in there. Do you know what I mean?
What position were you?
Well, I started off at right back, played at centre back. I was always a skipper because I had the mouth. I had a mouth on me.
We'd have probably clashed, because I'd be always the one to try and wind up the fullbacks, because although I'm right-footed, I used to love playing on the left wing, and it's how I knackered one of my knees, because I'd cut in, just try and whip it with my right. But I always remember trying to do it, and I got subbed off in the first 30 seconds of a match. I think it was. We'd had kick-off, ball got played out to me, got past the winger, got past the full-back, turned inside on the centre-back, and he just put his stud straight inside my kneecap. My leg just bent like that and then went straight. And luckily, like as a kid, I had osteoarthritis, so I was doing too much sports and my bones was growing, which I'm like, that's ironic. I'm a short ass. Like, where's the growth here? But I had to do like physio, so like the hospital and stuff when I went there, they was on about it where basically my legs was the size of like pro rugby players at like 15, 16, and that saved the kneecap from like snapping essentially. But I always tried doing it, but my left was never the same from that. But I used to love like try and wind up the fullback. I always remember we won one of the leagues in January. We won the league by January. We was unbeaten, and there was a team that the year before was always the team that had beat us. And I'd come back from injury, scored the winning on that one, and it was like my first goal of the season. I hadn't scored for a while, and I was like, get in. And their captain just spat the dummy out. He was full on going off on one. And I always remember the return leg was losing 1-0, and it was the only game we drew in the league. We won every other game. And they got the free kick, and one of our players just went to kick the ball away, like just move it so they couldn't take the fast free kick. The ref was like, play on. He thought they'd kick the ball. So we're like, fuck it. We all just hit down to the other end, score the equaliser. They're just losing the shit. We draw 1-1, end of the game, and kept our unbeaten run.
Oh shit! Fucking hell.
Yep. That nearly caused a big old scrap. But yeah, back to yourself, like.
It's good fun, isn't it? That? Yeah, so
How
I
would
think,
you have dealt with that if that happened against your team?
mate, I just think I just would have been in fucking shock that that's fucking happened. I think I always used to get booked for mouthing at the ref, but then the thing is with me, I was like this good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Like I'd go over to the ref, put my arm around him and say, "Look, ref, do you know what I mean? You get what I mean?" But then when I wouldn't get my way, then I'd fucking start crying. I was a big baby during them days, and yeah. But yeah, so that's a good flipping shout, that is, man. But yeah, I think I always, and then I snapped my ankle playing football, and then that was it for me. I think I was sort of done. I kind of made a slight return, but I just didn't feel the same about football.
Yeah.
Lost my passion for it a little bit. Played a bits and bats and five-a-side, but as you know, with flipping five-a-side, it's flipping hard on your knees, man. You know what I mean?
That's the only football I've played since my last 11-a-side game was when I was in Africa. And I was coaching one of the teams. Like I wanted to get away from football coaching when I went out there. But there was a local side, and I went down, and I was like, right, yeah, I'll coach for a bit. And they're like, do you want to play? Like, right, I've got no boots. I didn't even take my football trainers because I wasn't intending to do football. So I've just literally got running trainers. I'm like, fuck it, here we go. So there I am playing in Tanzania. But then apart from that, it was like five-a-side, and I love it because adrenaline kicks in. But
It's
then
great.
afterwards, I'm walking like John Wayne for the rest of the week.
So it's a good sign, though. That is, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
a good sign. But yeah, and then I think after that, I just thought, let me actually go and see what if I'm able to, because I was looking online. I remember searching online wrestling schools, and the one that came up was Food Shocks, and I think Dave Rain at the time was a trainer, but I was very, I think I didn't want to go and do the classes.
Yeah.
I was very secretive about it. And again, this will come in. I hid this from my parents and my family as well. I had to. I'll be honest with you. I genuinely had to, or else I was dishonoring their name and going against culture. So I contacted Dave Breen and I said, "Look, is there any chance I can have some one-to-one sessions with you?" And he said, "Yeah, go, brilliant." And that guy taught me a lot. And then he said to me, he said, "Look," he said, "H, one-to-one sessions are absolutely fine. You're great. You're getting on with it. But you need to start doing some group classes." And I couldn't explain to him. I couldn't say, "Look, I can't let anybody find out that I'm doing this, and I don't really want to exchange any information with anyone." And I couldn't say that. And I always made an excuse of, "Oh, I'm doing something at this specific time or whatnot." And the Wolves seminar was coming. So the Wolves, David Richards, Eddie Edwards, they were coming to the UK.
Was that when they did the NGW show?
Yeah, spot on. Yeah. So they had 2 weeks. They were doing a beginners and an advance. Dave Rin said to me, "This is a great opportunity, H, if you wanna." So I signed. So me being me, I signed up for both. Yeah. I remember all them 2 weeks. I did not sleep.
I'm just picturing it now. You've been doing it in secret.
Yes.
You're gonna turn up, and everyone's, "Who the fuck's this guy?"
Yeah. So this is a funny thing now. I turned up and I got myself a nickname as Ninja, purely because I was so like quite invisible almost. I'd do everything what they said. I didn't speak a word. I think for the first week, Eddie Edwards thought I was a mute because until he heard me speak in the second week, and he was chuffed. But them two, the way they trained, oh mate, it was I was addicted because of the solid fitness drills at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think people thought I was weird. because I love that. I love being pushed to sort of my limits.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You probably felt the same yourself. You know what I mean? In the past, like it happens when you're growing up through football. You want to be pushed to your limits.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So from there, after that, I was addicted. I took a little bit of a break from wrestling, straight after training, but it was a short break due to a family bereavement. And then I remember then signing up with PCW after that because Dave Rain, I think Dave Rain also was training at PCW at the time as well. So I ended up switching over and then being part of a group there. That's how I kind of got into it. It wasn't so long as well till I was made my debut actually.
Yeah. How did your family take it then when you finally told them?
Wow, mate.
'Cause I can imagine. I remember when I spoke to Alexis Lee from Singapore, she kept it from her family, and then her family found out, and she mentioned her mum actually went down to the training session, was like, "You are not doing this." So I can imagine.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll be honest with you, right? Flipping dark time, man. It's a dark. I tell you why. People think this. You should be able to make your own decisions and all that. People don't understand. When you're brought up in a Pakistani household, an Asian household, culture and discipline is totally different.
Yeah.
There's none of this. I'm going to call the social services. There's none of that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When your dad turns around and says somebody's going to get hurt, that basically means that somebody's me. You know what I mean? So basically, Kurt, I lied and I told them that I was doing a course of becoming a personal trainer.
Yeah.
That's basically what I said. Got to like past a year. And one day,
Even the lie would probably make the whole thing worse.
mate, I was dying. I was living like, it was like living two lives, man. Do you know what I mean? So, my dad just said to me, and I had, by this time, Kurt, I had made my debut, and I was on shows. Now I'm on shows, and they still don't know. My dad goes to me, out of the blue. I'm not going to do his accent because I'm probably really bad at it, but anyway. So, when's this personal training course finishing? Halfway through me flipping curry and chapati, I nearly choked, man. Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I mean? I nearly choked. And I was like, what the heck do I say? I said, I've just got a few more months left. And then hopefully I should be qualified. My dad was calling me bluff that day. I think he knew very well, but he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then I remember coming home after a show, and I used to hide any of my wrestling gear. You know what I mean? I'd wash it at the girlfriend's house I was dating at the time. Yeah. Any injuries, I'd just pretend I didn't have it. Because you like you said yourself, you're limping and aches, pains from the bumps and anything that happens. And then it's like, it's hard for me to explain. It's probably hard for you to picture, but I just want you to get this sort of visualize the fact that it's almost like you're being called to a massive family meeting.
Yeah.
You've got uncles there, uncles you've flipping never seen before. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Sisters and everything, all in this sort of one room. I get asked to come in. I was like, flipping it. There must be something going on because Asian families like to have gatherings and all that. Something going on. What the heck is this? I'll go and say, hello, and I'll get out. Got pulled in, and then my father is there, and my mother is there, and they have printed out pictures of me in this Sheikh gimmick with his turban and his robe on. And I'll be straight with it. I'm absolutely roasted. The conversation it went a little bit like this. This is not in our culture. Why are you dishonoring the family name? You're disrespecting us by not listening to us. We don't want you to do this. You need to choose. And this is where the emotional and I'll be quite open about it. Emotional blackmail came in. You need to choose. between doing this and us. And it was horrible. It was very, very horrible because that's my dream, man. That's my passion. That's what I love. But then on the other side, I've got my parents.
Yeah.
They wanted, they were basically that day they were ready to disown me if that carried on. The battle's still there, bro. The battle is still there.
Yeah.
But what they need to understand is my dreams keep me awake at night.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? So, and I can't live in the shadows forever because, arranged marriages is a big thing in Asian culture. Yeah, as you probably heard and probably aware of, but so is doing what your parents say in terms of a career. Be a doctor, be a lawyer. Do you know what I mean?
What did they want you to be?
Doctor or lawyer.
Yeah.
Doctor or lawyer. Being a teacher wasn't enough. Getting a degree or doing a master's wasn't enough. The only reason I did all that was for them.
Yeah.
If it was up to me, I would have started. I don't know if I can say this, and I don't want to gain sympathy from anyone or any people watching. I just want people to understand how difficult it is because, check this out, Dave. It became, what I was saying before about being thick-skinned.
Yeah.
It started at home. So when I told you about sort of being scouted and all this, really excited. Ran home, told the parents. No reaction.
Yeah.
Fuck, it kills a buzz in it. Fuck, what the heck? First game of the season. Coach walks in. Hi, Dre, you skipper. What? Butterflies. I've just been told I'm skipper first week of the season. Expecting, and I don't know why I expected this, expecting parents to be watching or some sort of family member is going to be turning up. Gets to end of half time. All these white kids running up to their parents, mums holding bottles, dads with proud looks on their face as the kids are running in. And then you've got me, the flipping brown kid, who spends half time kicking the match ball around because there's no one to watch him or support him.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say now? This kind of then it puts something inside you. It causes a fire inside you, which I can't even explain. It's so much determination.
You need to try and be the best at it to prove you've not made a mistake.
See, this is the point now. There's one thing proving a point, but then there's one thing proving to your parents that. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Mate, this almost sounds like a promo. I could probably do a promo about this.
When you finally do your big baby face turn.
But yeah, sorry, man. I don't mean to switch the violins on or anything like that, man. It's just I think people don't understand how difficult it actually is coming from a specific background and to represent.
I think it's needed from the fans to understand, but also your peers, like those that listen to this, just how difficult it is because, again, you've not had to fight against the promoters for giving you a chance. It's fighting against like your family and also with athletes as well when it is like Ramadan and Eid and having the dietary requirements and stuff like that, living that life can be really difficult. And do you think it's that culture why we may not have that many people, whether it's Pakistani or in the Premier League or in wrestling? Do you think it's because not that many people would fight against their parents?
Yeah, they do. You're absolutely, you've cracked it there because it's not seen upon as a proper job.
Yeah,
it's not highly looked upon as being proud. You know, the shittest thing as well, Kurt, is where you go to university and you listen to your parents and you work your arse off in that sort of words, right? And my parents are great. I'm not saying that they're bad people, but they're stuck in a totally different time zone than I am. Yeah, that's what I'm saying here. But you know, they're always going to compare you to, look at so-and-so's son, he's a doctor. Now, people see this in movies or on TV.
His doctor is married and...
Yeah. and they laugh about it, like, movies like Easter's, which is, it's hilarious, but it's a really false reputation. But in the flipping real world, some of this happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People think, oh, it's disgusting. How do you guys get married to people that you don't even know? Well, personally, I haven't. But has it happened in my family? Yes, it has. But you know what? That's what we brought up with. Arranged marriages.
Yeah.
I guess now you guys have a flipping, you know what I mean? Now you guys watch programs. This is what I was saying to my family as well. I'm saying you guys watch programs now about, flipping Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
There's people making money. I said, we could have done this years ago. Do you know what I mean? I have a laughing joke with the family about it. But and people find it odd and people will look at you different. They might never say anything, Kurt, but you can feel that. Do you know what I mean?
I think people don't understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it isn't just, well, this person's single, you're single, you're gonna marry. Like, the families do work out, like, what's their family like what's their, I guess, potential like in terms of working, and what background does that family come from, what's going to be compatible. It isn't just a case of, right, well, have you two go together. There is a lot of thought in it to see, would our families mix well, and would you say that's
it? No one knows this. Like, you again, I'll say this again, you're a very knowledgeable person, and again, hats off to you again, because people are so ignorant to this. And it's obviously you've done in your research, and you've not just research, you've talked to people on a level, so you get it. That's basically it. You can't just pull two strangers together and think, right, get it on. It doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? But there is a lot of false people. Again, another thing what people might not understand is the casting system is big.
Yeah.
In the Asian culture, especially Pakistani and Indian culture. And when I'm talking the casting system, I don't actually mean where you are in terms of what job you do. I'm talking about sort of your ancestry sort of background and what you classed as. So forget about even some people marrying out of ethnicity. People can't even marry a specific caste.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's how strict and how tight it is. We have a family business that's been it's been nearly 3 generations. My father's a goldsmith. The pressure's always been there for me to take over that. You know what I mean? He has a lot of businesses abroad. There's always been pressure. I've always rejected it. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, wrestling is my passion.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want to do. And as soon as, fingers crossed, if I can get that contract and then display that contract to my mother and father, mate, that's going to be the sweetest victory that I've ever had in my life.
Definitely. And when you're speaking of contracts, obviously it's WWE, so, and with NXT UK. But before we get into that, let me ask you a question then. There's WWE are wanting territories all over the world where it's NXT territories. And there's been rumours of like an NXT Japan, NXT Asia, and it's come out that they're going to do NXT India, where I imagine they will use the neighbouring countries across Asia. What would it mean to you, like, obviously, being from England, but what would it mean to you if you got an opportunity to, okay, we're going to sign you, but we want you to lead that NXT India brand? Do you think that would?
Absolutely. Do you know why? I tell you why I love that. Because I think I'd be able to genuinely showcase everything. And when I mean everything, being in the ring and having to wrestle is one thing. Portraying a character in promos is another thing. But sharing best practice and being the link with the social with the media, and portraying that image of being able to speak all the languages. I speak 3 different languages.
What languages do you speak?
Urdu, Punjabi, and a bits and bats of Arabic. But
Yeah.
Urdu Punjabi is it's fluent.
Yeah.
Which obviously are the main. Hindi as well, which are the main languages in India.
Yeah.
And I just think having someone from England with British values who's been taught the British style of wrestling. Do you know what I mean? And not only that, has the understanding of respect, ears
The
open.
culture.
Yeah. This is
You've got their culture, but with the British wrestling education.
exactly. So then you can you can transfer the sort of skills over to that setting, and you can share. What I mean by share the best practices, where I'll say how it is. The manners in Pakistan and India are totally different to what we class as manners in here at home.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? How many times have you been on holiday to places like maybe Egypt, or I'll say Egypt because I've been there quite a lot. They don't understand what queuing up is.
Yeah.
All us Brits will queue up when it comes to getting food. Yeah.
I get it. When I was in Tanzania, I was in the town was called Kayanga. It was in Karagwe in the Kagera region, and it was way up in the mountains off the Ugandan border. Away, like it was a poor rundown. It had the highest HIV epidemic. That's how far away from like Dar es Salaam and Mwanza and stuff like that, which I visited whilst out there. But when I was up there, barely anybody spoke English. Like my family that I lived with didn't speak English. My mother, like I'll say my mother because that's what I called her. I lived with their family for 3 months, so that's what I called them. One of my sisters did, but she only visited around the Christmas time because she was studying. And one of the brothers did, but he was working a lot, so he was always back and forth. So a lot of the time, I had nobody I could speak English unless my Tanzanian volunteer was there. So I had to try and learn Swahili and try and learn that. And it's picking up on the different cultures. I used to go to like the stores and I'd be like, Moja Maji Tafadali, which is like 1 water, please.
Oh.
And I'd be like, Asante Sana, which is thank you very much. And they just start giggling. And I was like, right, I'll try my luck. I was like, why laugh? And they could speak little bits of English. I was like, why, please, and thank you? Like, I went, because it's polite. Like, but you're giving us money. So I was like, in my culture, I was like, I say please if I want something, and I say thank you. Even if I give you money, that's what I say. And it's not me just being polite because I was out there. When if I'm in supermarket or anything like that, it's always pleasantries and it's always thank you very much, have a good day.
Yeah, spot on.
And they picked up on it, to be honest. So every time I went back and I'm like Maja Maji Tafadali, they're like say it'd be what I think say 1,000 Tanzanian shillings, which works out 30p, and they'd say Tafadali. And then when I give them it, they're like Santa Sana, and they started reciprocating that because I think I took the time and effort to learn their language and to try and speak it. Because I'd try and speak Swahili before I tried even communicating in English. And there'd be some times where I had to then change to English because I'm like, my vocabulary isn't that big. Like, I'm learning here.
Because I think we expect everyone just to speak English, don't we?
Yeah.
So that's such a massive thing that you've made that conscious effort, and it's obvious that they appreciated that as well.
Yeah.
But you can understand what I mean in terms of sort of manners as well. There's a lot of things where I disagree with when it comes within culture.
Yeah.
Within the household, there's so many things that I disagree with, and it's taken me so long to. I don't want to use the word sort of brainwash, but taken me so long to get my dad on board with certain things.
Yeah.
Even about this flipping, just even in terms of business itself, how businesses are run, and
yeah.
to get and Asian people, Asian people a lot love to kind of work on credit basis and stuff like that. Again, people don't know it's part of how they were brought up over in India and Pakistan. And then again, the other side of how marriages are done. And, you know what I mean? My mates used to ask me, "Oh, H, what if you took a girlfriend home?" I said, "That's a big no." So, what do you mean? I said, "What? So your girlfriend can't come in?" It was hard for me to explain when I was dating. I was dating a girl for a long time, and she always used to ask, "When am I going to meet your parents?" Ah, yeah, that might be a heart attack for a lot of people, but for me, it was a different style of heart attack. Because could I not even say hello? I said, "No." You know what I mean? So it's going back to all that kind of stuff as well. But I mean, answer your question regarding NXT sort of India is I'd love it. Honest to God, it'd be that would be a great sort of goal to achieve. And I think not only sort of being an asset, I'd love to even, as I said, I'm not getting any younger. I'm quite older than what people think I am. The coaching aspect of it as well, being able to speak the language, I'd love to participate in that as well.
What about personally then? Do you think your family would be more okay if you was going over to NXT India, where if it's like anything like NXT UK, they use the neighbouring countries, and you're doing your wrestling and breaking down barriers in India and being at that forefront? Do you think your family would be more proud of you and accepting of wrestling if it was NXT India rather than UK?
Don't think no. I don't think it would make. I don't really think it would make a difference to him. They'd be more accepting if I was in a 9 to 5 office job, coming home with a briefcase and wearing a top-notch suit. And that's why what makes me sort of more of a threat, I think, in this business. Because, again, we mentioned it before, it's not just something that I want to do. It's become a lot more than that. It's like when you keep poking at this flipping animal in a cage, mate, one of the days this animal's going to flip me freak out. That's the best way I can put it. So yeah, just that's all really I can say about that one. It wouldn't make a difference at all.
Yeah. Well, going to we'll get onto your tryout and stuff later on, but with your you mentioned you ended up going to PCW and things like that, and PCW were one of the first companies away from NGW that I became aware of, because I think they don't get the credit they deserve. I think I said this with Big T. I said it to Dean Allman, certainly. Once upon a time, they were the company in the UK. You had ICW, you had Progress, you had Rev Pro, you had OTT, but PCW was the one getting the big names. There was drawing, there was making money from all the DVD sales and stuff like that. That was the hotbed of British wrestling, in my opinion. And obviously, money doesn't last forever, and they've changed, but they've always given time and effort to the local guys. You saw, obviously, with Chris Travis and Lionheart, like, they did so much with so many big names for like PCW, and you've seen it with so many other people. So what's it been like for you working with PCW?
It's been it's been a phenomenal experience. Honestly, I have a lot to thank PCW for. I'd even go as far as saying that they're the ones that kind of got me or put me on the map.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it was the first time I came across yourself would have been through all the buyout stuff, and obviously you built up to a match with Fludder, which was that Fludder's first ever match.
Yeah, that was a tough match, man.
But talk about that then, like the whole buyout stuff, because you had various different partners, including Bram, PCW Tag Team Champion, but you took over essentially PCW, you was the owner, and that was on the line against Fludder. And what was to be in such a position?
Well, as you know, flipping, I'm green. I'm green as fuck. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how long I've been in it or how much I flipping know. I class myself as green. And I was overwhelmed by this when I was given this responsibility. It was given to me by the writer, Greg Lambert, who's the writer for PCW. I was shocked. I was like, "Are you sure you want me to flipping lead this kind of? You got look at the guys around me, man. You've got, like you mentioned, you've got Bram, you got CJ Banks, you got Danny Hopes, you got, you know what I mean? There's so many guys. Another guy on the mic, Tell Banham. You got people like him, man.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Look, I want you to run with it because I've seen something in you." It was difficult at the time. I was like, "Fucking hell, I've been trusted with this." You know what I mean? So I need to. But it also gave me a lot more sort of confidence, and I got to trial the character in a different way, because then it didn't become about, "Oh, you're just getting heat because you wear a flipping turban." Do you know? Do you get what I mean? Yeah. It was more about being able to visit the sort of, as I mentioned before, about these villains that I love to sort of test. You know what I mean? I mean, the boys were great as well. The likes of Joey Hayes, and I worked Joey Hayes almost for a year at PCW, and he's another guy who I'm very grateful for. Danny Hope was so like reassuring me every time. Like, "Look, you've got this. This is your baby. You run with it." It helped me work with my sort of promo skills quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
And then I found myself in a match with Fludder, having to leave that and get Fludder through the match.
Like, would you say that's one of your best times of your career so far?
It's definitely one of the highlights in terms of, because I was basically, they fucking strapped the rocket to me, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's what they did. When the time of, they looked around and they thought, right, who the heck have we got? Because of all the cuts that were made, and because money wasn't there anymore, you know what I mean? The big names weren't coming in. They're like, who the heck have we got here where we can fucking run some sort of storyline with? And I felt grateful, and I felt privileged that Greg looked at me and thought, this is the guy.
Yeah. Like, full credit to PCW, like, to bounce back from that, where they've had to make the cuts because that money's not there, and a lot of the roster's been signed for NXT UK and maybe not available as much. And obviously, with deaths of Chris Travis and Lionheart, they were the two faces. They were PCW, in my opinion, especially during like the height of their careers. And I think they do need that credit, because I remember going to I think like one of the pre-shows for the first NXT UK tournament when they was crowning the first champion. I went to the two shows that they held in Blackpool. That'd be before those shows, and it was that where I started. I hadn't been to PCW for a while. I started seeing, okay, they're putting a lot of time and effort in the next generation of British wrestlers, and like yourself, like early on, I believe having matches with Tyson T-Bone over the PCW Championship. And how was it like working with T-Bone?
Fucking hell. Well, I'll be honest with you, over the years, you probably won't like me saying this, but T-Bone's become like a brother over the years, man. Do you know what I mean? And we just get along so well. We have this great. We just have. He's so good. That guy is. I don't think he gets enough credit. I'm not gonna lie to you, when I first saw him, I thought, oh, shit, this guy he looks like a fucking mean guy, man. You know
Especially
what I
when it was always him and Rampage just together. It's like, nope.
mean? Exactly right. You won't like to fucking meet them on a fucking dark alley, would you? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, and getting to he helped me. The guy helped me so much. He still till this day, you know, we talk on a regular basis, and he's been very helpful with my hopefully my induction to NXT UK. But working with him, I was like taken back, because you got to understand. Even though I came into wrestling late, and I was still aware of British wrestling,
Yeah.
so I seen these guys, and it was him that sort of put me over as well at the PCW Road to Glory tournament, where they had Moose and Apollo Crews come in.
Because you'd faced Moose in the first round, didn't you?
And I'll be honest with you, Kurt, I had no idea I was facing Moose until 2 hours before.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. You can imagine. Do you know why? Because we were told Road to Glory participants are fucking full. They're using all the fucking big names.
Yeah.
Trainees are going to be in some sort of. At the time, yeah, I was classed as a trainee. I still am a trainee, but they're in a fucking battle royal later on.
Yeah.
So I was like fucking really laid back, thinking, "Fuck it, it's a battle royal. We'll just fucking call it in there." Yeah. Get a message from the promoter saying, "Get your boots ready because." You're against Moose in the fucking first round. And that wasn't to fill anybody's space. That's genuinely what you wanted.
Yeah.
And that was one of my first sort of big matches I'd class against someone who was established from across the pond.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing. Can't explain how I felt about that. And ever since then, you know what I mean? I've had great opportunities to work with the greats of James Mason, Dean Allmark, Joel. Fucking everyone's you're right about Joel. I'm telling you, you've got to be at his level, man. He's an absolute machine, and you got to keep up with him. And he's a perfectionist, so you got to make sure you know. Charlie Sterling's another one who I loved. I loved working with. Ashton Smith, brilliant. And then tagging with Bram was fucking cool. It was cool, man.
Yeah.
It was just so cool because he's someone else that I watched when you transition from NXT to Impact. I just remember watching, thinking, this guy's a fucking animal.
Yeah.
And then being able to sit with him, learn from him in the ring. I fucking hell, every time walking out with him, I thought I was untouchable.
What was one of the things you learned from Bram?
To tell a story. Being able to, it doesn't matter what match you're in, doesn't matter how long you have in a match. Yeah. It's all about telling a story using your facials and how to be aggressive in the ring.
Yeah.
How to be aggressive but not stiff. So, yeah, man.
Class. I think it's an interesting story, especially your Road to Glory run, because you get put in, you're the like only trainee, you're facing Moose, and then I believe the next year you got all the way to the final, was it?
Yeah, man. And then the final, So
the year after as well.
Yeah, so I've been in three Road to Glories. First one, obviously, Moose got knocked out in the first round. Got to the final in the second round with Joey Hayes. And then this recent one with Will Cruz, is another great fucking athlete, man.
Yeah.
It's a fucking great athlete, that guy. And in the final there as well.
But I want to go to I believe it'd be the 2019 then one when you got to the final losing to Joey. Semi-final against Tom Lawler. Like, what was that like to be in the ring with somebody like Filthy Tom, but to get that win to go to the final? Do you think like the audience was expecting that to happen?
Do you know what? I really wish I could have had a longer and a proper match with Tom.
Yeah.
It was a storyline style match. It's what the writer wanted.
Yeah.
Man, that guy can fucking hit, man. When he hits, yeah, you know what I mean? You feel it. You feel it, man. But the guy is such a professional. Um, I don't think the audience expected that outcome at all. I think everybody was sort of caught off guard with that as well. Um, but just being in the ring with someone of that caliber and having that, the cage fighting experience and things like that, you think two ways, don't you? You think, the number one, this guy's going to flip and tear me to pieces. Or number two, I'm going to learn a lot.
Yeah.
And just by being in his presence and listening to some of the stuff that he was saying, man, he's a true gentleman, and I'm very appreciative of learning from him.
Yeah. And then obviously, like in the semis the other time, there's Yes and Maurice. Like you've wrestled like the who's who of British wrestling, and it'll be exciting to see what PCW do next. I know they've been doing like hey, we're kind of restarting, we're bringing everybody in. Are you hoping to be are you going to be a important part of that?
I'll be honest with you. I owe a lot to PCW. So as long as I can wrestle for him, I will always be there in any sort of capacity. And if it comes to a time where if I'm signed by someone and I'm not able to wrestle, I'd be there to help the training school.
Yeah, nah, good on you. And got another exciting. Speaking of tournaments, another exciting opportunity with Southwest Wrestling SWW, the Heavyweight Championship Classic. And again, looking at that lineup, it is like the who's who. I know you've got Tyson Taylor in the first round, but then if you advance through that, you're even facing Eddie Ryan, who again I think is one of the most underrated wrestlers in the UK, or Joey Seven, who's one of the best prospects. Like I've interviewed both of them as part of my Reach series, and yeah, what's your thoughts on this SWW Classic?
Fucking privileged, man. Honestly. Oh, by the way, is swearing allowed on this?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, sorry. I'll just be dropping me.
I never remember. The only reason I didn't swear for the racism because I just think that was it may hit people, like
Yeah, of course,
because flashbacks or whatever. But yeah, no matter what, even if I can't remember myself swearing or somebody else swearing, when I go on YouTube, I always click "not made for kids" because I'm like, I'm gonna drop it somewhere.
Cool. Yeah, flipping. I'll be honest with you. What a privilege that is, just to be part of that. When obviously the promoter Pete, Pete, who reached out to me. Wow, I'm fucking taken back by it because, yeah, it's a name I have for this year is to branch out a little bit more and to be noticed and wrestle in sort of places. And you know what? Showcase my actual wrestling ability rather than just a character. And that's my sort of aim this year. And then being in that lineup with them guys, I'll be honest with you, I'm literally sort of blessed to be part of that at all. Really looking forward to it. And, if the case is I can advance past Tyson Taylor, then I'll before and after that match, I think I'd be, whether it's Mr. Ryan or Joey Seven himself, I'd be fucking, I'll be shaking their hands, in the back and after and thanking them. So
I think one of the favourites on the left side of the bracket, you mentioned him earlier, Charlie Sterling, like absolutely phenomenal what he's been doing recently. What would you feel of like that final with yourself and Charlie?
Well, I wrestled Charlie before, and I'll be honest with you, one of the most memorable matches. Why? Because I don't know, we just fucking gelled.
Yeah.
There's some guys you get in the ring with, right? And you have that instant fucking chemistry.
Yeah.
Fucking Charlie's one of them guys I think who can have that with anyone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because the guy is so smooth. He's just so good. You know, in my eyes, he's top, one of the top, if not one of the top fucking guys in wrestling.
Yeah.
And the amount that he knows already. He's a young guy. He's only young. Do you know what I mean? The amount he knows already as well. It's fucking hell. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I'd love to be in any matches again. Like I said with Mr. Eddie Ryan himself, I'd love to. You know, I'd love to wrestle with himself because that'd be another learning experience in itself. You know?
Yeah. So again, I know we're going. I'll probably have to set this into 2 parts. To be honest, we're going like an hour and a half, but it's always good. Like it don't feel like because we've been speaking for like 2 hours now.
Oh man, I'm enjoying it, man. I'm enjoying it.
But I want to talk about All Star. Like when did you first start working with All Star? What was your first experience of that?
Tagging with Big T, man. Tagging with Big T. That was my first experience. I got Dean Allmark put me forward. I heard you mention Dean Allmark's mentioned in every
fucking one. Like he's never wrestled in Australia. I interviewed somebody from Australia that's never wrestled outside of Australia, and he still mentions he'd want to train or wrestle, and he watches Dean Allmark stuff. Like without fail, Allmark gets mentioned.
Yeah, do you know what it is though? The guy, right? As we know how good he is. Everyone knows how good he is, and people can talk about it. I don't think people don't realize how fucking cool the guy is. Like he's genuinely like a cool. Do you know how like Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig was classed as like a genuine like the reason why you got the name Mr. Perfect because he was just fucking good at everything. And Dean Allmark's that fucking guy. He's like the guy's.
I see it.
He's
the British Perfect.
Yeah, he's just fucking classic, and everything he fucking does, it just seems to be like, how the fuck has he managed to do that? You know what I mean? It's like, the way he even opens a can.
Yeah.
You just think, you fucking cool bastard. How cool can a guy be? But yeah,
you go home with your monster trying to practice it like.
I've seen him just like spin it around, open it, and I'm just fucking watching, thinking, man, you're fucking too fucking cool. You know what I mean? But yeah, he's been a great mentor to myself as well, and a teacher. He brought myself and Big T in, and he said, "Fucking H, put me to say anything. H, Brian's gonna fucking love you. Fucking do you, be you. Whatever shit that you've been doing at PCW, do it here, but times it by 20." Oh, that's pretty brilliant. So my first experience is, now you know yourself, the independent scene is totally different in terms of crowds to the camps. So you don't know what sort of audience you're going to get because it's the first time. Some of them, it might be the first experience of wrestling. I buzzed off it. Absolutely buzzed off it. Why? Because less is more. You learn that less is more. That you don't have to do all this crazy ass shit, which a lot of us wrestlers we can do, but then you think of which of the wise ones are that don't need to do it every match.
If you can get the same reaction as somebody doing a double shooting star press, then which one are you gonna do?
Exactly. I mean,
save the bumps for the big moment, not just in a throwaway match or something like that.
And I wish, you know what, God, I wish this mentality was embedded into the newer generation coming. Sorry, I'm not going to say newer because I'm fucking class myself as new Granger. The younger generation coming in, where they think going 100 miles per hour works. I don't think it does because there's no time to digest what's going on, especially if you're at ringside or you're watching as part of an audience. And then the slapping everywhere and the gimmicks and all that kind of stuff. Again, I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by really, really good people. All Star Boys being a major part of that, and being sort of shown and taught the the old school sort of way where but I mean my match with James Mason, holy shit. No, James Mason, you know yourself, like there's nobody here that can fucking vouch for James Mason because his reputation speaks for itself. Yeah. So when you're told you're going against James Mason in a match, you're gonna turn to fucking jelly. I don't care who you are, you're gonna turn to jelly. You know what I mean? Loved it. One of the fucking most memorable moments was for me to work with James Mason. Why? Because that guy's like, for me, I was bowing my head at him and saying thank you, sir, because it meant so much. But going back to the initial first time I went to All Star, me and I'm surprised Big T didn't tell you about this, but me and Big T versus the great Danny Collins and Tony Spitfire. Spitty's fucking great guy. Fucking love him, right? But this is the first time we've ever come across each other. The tell us a finish, and the rest, we'll see you out there, lads. Now, this was fucking new for me. It was. Why? Because we're so used to planning from A to fucking Z of a match. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So I'm shitting myself, thinking, T, what the fuck am I going to do? Honest to God, like, it was so fucking strange, but it was a lot more. It was probably the smoothest wrestling match I've ever had because I didn't know what was coming and I didn't know what I was going to do next. It was more natural.
Yeah. Because sometimes it'll get into your head and you can tell where people are thinking of that next spot. Whereas if you're right, this is the end when you need to work up to it, then before thinking of what you're doing, it becomes second nature.
Yeah. I think I was taught like James says this quite a lot. He goes, if you've got a fucking finish, go backwards. He goes, why don't you just work backwards from the finish and see what you need to put in there? Because we know where we're going.
Yeah.
You know where you're going to end up. So just fucking plan it backwards if you want. And I was like, fucking hell, I never thought of that. So, yeah, man. And then I think what the most valuable thing is, Kurt, is the fact that what you learn in the car journeys, the road, in the hotel rooms, backstage, sat there, or when you're helping with the ring, make the most out of that time when you're helping with the ring. Why? Because you've got James Mason to fucking ask anything you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why would you not want to help with the ring when you can get advice from such a great fucking veteran? That was the most valuable for me as well, I think. Yeah,
I can imagine. How many tours have you done with All Star?
3. So I've done 3 summers. Obviously, one summer I was injured. But yeah, and then we've because of, I think the beauty of being in teaching is I get all the holidays. So every time I'm on holidays, I'm able to do the camps.
Yeah. Are you still teaching at the moment, or did I see that you've finally?
No, I've started a new school.
Yeah.
So the school that I left, I was there for 2 years, 18 months to 24 months, something like that. It's a brand new role at an academy school rather than a council-run school. So yeah, I absolutely. I'll be honest with you, I love it. I love the fact of similar to yourself. This is probably why you just find it so refreshing to share knowledge and be able to pass stuff on. Young people are fucking great. I get to teach 11 to 19-year-olds now. Do you know what I mean? And it's fucking brilliant because.
Have you had any students in the crowd?
Oh yeah, man. yeah. The school I was at for the last 18 months were in school in Accrington, so they're not far away from sort of
Yeah.
Blackburn and Preston. And I think is when I was doing, because I do a run for Ian McGregor as well, because he does counter-style shows. The King George's Hall in Blackburn, fucking hell, all my students turned up. And I'm meant to be a fucking heel. And these, but they were all cheering. I was like, oh, flipping out, you know what I mean? So it's only because they saw me on the poster that they turned up.
Yeah.
So
Just cut a promo, and if you don't stop cheering, I'm gonna fail all of you.
yeah, I told them off. I told them off on the Monday. I said, what was all that about? You say we were showing you support. I said, yeah, but I'm a bad guy. All right, we didn't know that. Okay.
It was always the same. Like if I jumped in the car with Nathan Cruz and he'd be at one of the shows, and it's like, make sure you're booing for me. I'm like, don't worry, I'm already gonna call you a car. But you had your tryout with WWE in 2019. What was that experience like from getting first the email saying they're inviting you and the whole experience?
I'll be honest with you. Do you know? So I don't know if it was November 2019. My tryout. It's amazing because everyone who's at a tryout will always remember what day it was. Ask them when the missus's birthday is. They've got no idea, but they'll know when the tryout. I got injured, so I snapped my elbow in a match at Blackpool against Joey and Yeston. Literally fucking snapped it in half in June of 2019.
Yeah.
Had surgery. And then literally I was cleared in October. I had 4 weeks to get into fucking some sort of shape, right? Some sort of shape for my tryout in November. The first email initially, I was like, is this shit fucking real? Because I remember before that, Sean Samuels, who, as you know, he's a fucking, again, his ability speaks for itself. You know what I mean? Charles Samuels gave me a bit of a push and said, "Listen, why don't you send your shit over to the WWE?
Yeah,
I think, you know, they might be interested. You've got a good look. You've got just before I got injured, so I sent it over before I got injured. Mr. Regal sent me an instant reply saying, as soon as the next tryouts are on, I'll add your name to the list, so you'll be getting an email later on in the year. So I was like, no problem. And then I get the email. I was like, fucking hell. Like, my emotions were all over the show because I was so excited and chuffed, but at the same time, I was like, am I ready? I've just had fucking elbow surgery. I've just recovered. I've just been cleared. So 4 weeks to get in shape. Got there. It was like being in some sort of I don't know. It's like I was zoned out because I was too busy looking at like the banners that said WWE or NXT UK, and I'm thinking to myself, shit, man, I'm fucking actually here. You know what I mean? It wasn't sinking in. I've got Mr. William Regal fucking speaking to me face to face. Mr. Robbie Brookside fucking shouting, and I'm like, wow, like, you know what I mean? It was just so surreal because I was able to go down to the performance centre in London.
Yeah.
Spend 3 or 4 days there, alongside the other sort of candidates over there for the tryouts as well. So just like a dream, man. You know what I mean?
What was like the feedback and stuff you'd got then? Obviously, you've just been injured for that period of time. You've just come back.
So the feedback that I received was what I expected. A little bit too soon for you to come back from injury, they thought. Showed a lot of determination. Gathered a bit more experience.
Yeah.
And then please get in touch with us. So I got in touch with them November of this year. So
Yeah.
I waited a year. Again, instant reply from Mr. Regal to keep in touch with Johnny Moss, who again is one of the guys who helped train me. And just fingers crossed, really. There's as soon as the COVID stuff is all done and dusted, they've agreed to have another look at myself.
Okay.
So it's, I think it's one of those. I also slipped in there that I'm able to speak some different languages that might help in India. So
Hopefully. No, hopefully, man. And like, just from like the stories you've said, like, it's not blowing smoke up your ass from what you've had to go through in terms of breaking down barriers for yourself in wrestling, the fight you've had with your family of no, this is what I want to do and stuff. Like, all credit to you. Like, a lot of people have given up their dreams of wrestling for much less.
do you know? And this is it again. It's this is why it was so hard to. I think this is why it was so hard, because obviously the battle is still going on.
Yeah.
My parents are not the same with me. I don't even know what their reaction would be if I were to get signed. You know what I mean? But and I need that to kind of justify my reasons for what I've been doing, and kind of not listening to them, if that makes sense. But this is why it was so difficult, sort of observing the speaking out movement, because there was guys in there that mentioned that I almost watched and looked up to.
Yeah.
And you think, this is, it's wrestling doesn't owe you anything. It's a privilege to be in there. It's a privilege to be in that ring.
Yeah.
And people don't even understand what the aspect of shaking hands is in the room. When you meet people.
Yeah.
Again, it's within sort of culture and religion for myself. But what's the actual reason? People just think you just do it just to, oh yeah, just shaking hands because it's part of it. There's a reason behind the shaking hands. You know what I mean? There's a reason behind introducing yourself and keeping your mouth closed and ears open when you're in that changing. Do you know what I mean? Because you learn so much more.
Yeah, I always remember when I was working with Prince's Trust. I don't know. Have you heard of like Luke Campbell and Tommy Coyle boxers?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah, the semi-pro boxers, aren't they? Or are
Well,
they?
Luke's pro. Well, both ended up going pro, but Luke won gold in the Olympics, and Tommy was also a local. I think their family, a massive sporting family. He's in boxing. One's playing for Hull City in football. One's a professional golfer, and I think another one's like going up the ranks in football. I'd set up a Get Started with Boxing program in Hull with Prince's Trust and Tommy Coyle's Foundation, because I just thought we've just had Campbell and Coyle face each other in Hull. We need to capitalise on it, and the whole thing for Get Started is getting people from 18 to 25 not off the streets, but yeah, off the streets, or if they're not doing anything, try and build up that confidence and motivation. And there was always one lad where I had to have a few words with him before we got to the boxing side of things, where it's constantly interrupting. It's like, look, you're here for a reason. I'm trying to help you get some sort of work and build up these different skills. And like, oh, I'll knock Tommy out when I see him and stuff like that. And when we actually went down to his gym and did some of the boxing stuff, Tommy did the speech, and he was talking about all the struggles he's had going up, being off like one of the council estates and easy to get in trouble and stuff like that. And even he said, he was like, look, when people are around you that know more, you need to less of that and pick up on what people are saying. And I think it was Tyson Dux maybe tweeted the other day that the fact that people after the match goes on Twitter to see what people's reactions were rather than going to the promoter and asking for feedback is one of the cultural problems. Like,
Man, it's massive. This is why, and I don't want to come across as like I have anything sort of against social media or anything like that. It's worked wonders for me because I use it as a marketing, advertising tool for myself as a freelance worker, basically.
Well, if I didn't do the podcast, I'd have probably got rid of it.
Yeah,
It
well,
can be
this is
toxic as hell.
yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, mate. So, um, hence why again, you know what I mean. You need to be like ask for feedback. You'd be surprised, Kurt, the amount of again. I feel as though I'm picking on them now, but the younger sort of generation guys that are coming in, they don't even like. They'll ask for feedback, but they'll ask for it selectively.
Yeah.
What I mean, and they act like they have selective hearing. What I mean by that is they don't want to know what's fucking bad or the areas of improvement. They want you to tell them how good they are.
And I don't understand that, like, because if I was wrestling, I'd probably be their generation, like, or a little bit younger for them. But it's probably been one of my things in any sort of career aspect, or even with the interviews. I'm always asking, well, did you enjoy it? And my first thing is always, what can I do better? Rather than
This
what did I do well, what can I do better?
this is again, look, this is the difference. And I hope again you don't mind me saying this, but this is a difference where it absolutely showcases that you've been brought up and not fucking dragged up. Do you get what I'm trying to say to
Yeah.
you? There's a big like even just talking to you again about the fucking deep understanding that you have about people's backgrounds and religions and all. That's a fucking massive thing in this day and age. And what? You're only young, you're in your fucking early 20s, man. Yeah.
Late 20s, 27.
So, yeah, you know what I mean? You're in your 20s and the fact that you already have that understanding. Um, Whereas, why? There's no need to change what's good. So why am I going to tell you what's good? You don't need to fucking change it. So I'm going to tell you areas of improvement, or you want to hear what the areas of improvement are. Yeah,
Yeah.
because this is it. This fucking trend of let's see who's put me over, or let's see who's fucking giving me fucking 5 stars, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You want to better yourself, and in any organization or any position or any time you're in there, your fucking challenge must be that fucking reflection in the fucking mirror that's looking back at you.
Mhm.
Never mind comparing yourself to so and so as a wrestler, or do you know what I mean? And it's heartbreaking sometimes to see people revert to Twitter and use Twitter as a first protocol. And do you know what I mean? That in every aspect as well. I don't, I didn't really want to talk much about this, but I remember sort of you had this chat with Big T about the speaking out movement and stuff like that. But I think there's and you probably would touched up on it, but there's a lot of good things that came out about that, and there's a lot of things that needed to happen.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think it was necessarily fair for people to use it as a witch hunt, or as a protocol. So, for example, if my fucking I don't know, if I've been fucking my car's been broken into, my first protocol is the police, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I might fucking put something on social media and say, "Oh, anybody seen anyone fucking?"
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? But a major incident, in my personal eyes, a major incident, some of the shit that was going on, you got to understand this, Kurt. Like me and you both in the fucking, we're in the game of working with young people and safeguarding. So we hear all sorts. Young people might have approached myself, especially with yourself, who's worked with vulnerable people in Prince's Trust.
Yeah.
You're someone that has a protocol to follow where you would tell the safeguarding lead.
Yeah.
The last thing you want is to go onto fucking social media and say, well, one of my young people has just come up to me and said so and so is why? Because that fucking jeopardizes the fucking case.
Yeah.
And the other point that I'm going to make on that as well is I was disappointed because people always ask me about, people take the piss out of me, my mates who who are not involved in wrestling. Oh, fucking hell, you fucking wrestlers are just fucking pedos and rapists. This is what they said. And do you know what? That hurt me because this caused people shitting on the business that I love, the business that puts fucking food on the table for some of you people. Yeah, the business that has made you happy as a child and you want to come up. Yeah, right. At work, for example, if someone fucking said something disrespectful or racist or whatever to me at work, I'd go to my fucking line manager.
Yeah.
Or if it was really bad, again, I'd go to the fucking authorities. Why would I not put it on social media and say, this is what happened in so-and-so school? Why? Because then I'm an employee of that school.
Yeah.
And then what am I doing? I'm fucking giving that school a bad rep.
Yeah.
Yes, we know there's fucking bad eggs. There's fucking bad eggs everywhere. But please don't piss all over the fucking business, a beautiful business like flipping wrestling. That, come on, you've got a little girl, Kurt, yeah? And you know, one day you want to be able to take your little girl to wrestling and watch.
Yeah.
But you imagine if she was old enough now, how would you feel about taking your little girl to watch wrestling because of everything that's come out? You'd be in two minds.
Yeah, I think for myself, knowing like certain people in wrestling or whatever, I'd be okay. But if I was, for example, if I didn't like it and it was the missus has no interest in wrestling, but if she was like, oh, I'm going to take her to wrestling, local wrestling, UK wrestling, or something like that, and Google's that,
And
a lot of it's going to be the speaking out. No, you're not going.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's difficult because there's no governing body. So I think in the past, people have spoken out, and then the victims been blackballed, and their career's over. And they've tried doing it privately, didn't work. Then they did it publicly, didn't work. And I think with the speaking out, a lot of people that spoke out and where it's cases that have been proved or things like that, then fair enough. I know it can be difficult if you've been abused or stuff like that, to come forward about it. But I just think some of it was warranted because if it wasn't so publicly, half of them would still be wrestling.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Because the mates will be the promoter and they'll stand by the mates. But because it's been so publicly, they've not been able to.
Yeah.
But you've seen so many statements that have been retracted because of burner accounts and false information and stuff like that.
But look, like, you know, this is the thing now. What's the fucking, where's the line? You know what I mean? In terms of, and I'll be honest with you, hats off to some of them lasses that have been through all that, man, because it's a fucking lot to take that kind of shit. Yeah. But I have a, you know, I got a little bit of a inkling of like, how many are these actually credible because of the burner accounts and stuff like that? And that's where the question lies. But then you have the other case of, what's a personal vendetta? Is it anything to do with anybody else if it's a personal relationship that you've had with someone? Yeah. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And is it just a bit of vengeance or revenge that somebody wants? And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is where you've got to make that fucking distinction. But no, I am not taking anything away because it was fucking great and it's helping people stand up. And it's helping people be more confident. And the business, yeah, we could do with more cleaning out. Yeah. You know what I mean? But on top of all that as well, we need to sometimes take a step back and just look and think. We all fucking have skeletons in our fucking closet, you know, regardless of fucking whoever you are. But there's a difference in having a skeleton and fucking breaking the law, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where we need to kind of see. But like I said, watching your interviews and speaking to people about speaking out, I love how you've been about it because you've called it down the middle, you've called it down the line, where Yes, there was a total fucking need for it because we needed to get rid of these monsters, man. But there's other people that try and take the piss and use the speaking out movement as a
Yeah.
fucking tool for other things, which I personally think is that makes you almost as fucking bad as these perpetrators, man.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm coming from there?
Oh yeah. I think I can't remember who said it. I think quite a few have been saying it recently, but even speaking outside away from it, I think I can't remember who said it, and it's going to annoy me, but wrestling gives fans too much power. Wrestling gives through Twitter, I think through social media, wrestling takes what fans say to heart and will make changes and give them too much power and stuff. I know you're supposed to listen to fans, but you get witch hunts and you get people jumping on about a certain thing when they've never even been to that company before.
Yeah, man.
And I think like if it's warranted, fair enough. But I've seen some attacks on certain people where it's like, well, what did they actually do? It's because you don't really like this character, and I think the mob mentality can be like
Especially.
I remember being a victim of it once on Twitter because I stood up to a certain wrestler, and I think it was all around, well, because somebody's views had changed on the business where they wanted to be a pro, and then there was embracing the independent scene more now, but before they might not have. And I was like, well, the person's gone through all this shit, they've been so close to what they wanted, realised how toxic it was, and now they're embracing what they've had. I mean, what's wrong with that? And because I dared speak out against the person that criticised the original, everybody was just tweeting and was going at it, and I think it's toxic. It is giving people too much power and too much
It's what
energy.
we said. It's what we said before, Kurt. Fucking, if we had a problem with someone, you know what I mean, and you just fucking call them face to face and say, "Look, what's the issue?" Rather than this keyboard warrior shit.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's like you utilize social media for positives. It's so negative nowadays, man. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, it's no wonder people are going fucking insane because people are getting off social media because you go through a news feed on Facebook or on Twitter or whatever it is, and mate, you see more bad than good.
yeah,
Um, and hopefully, that can change, in future. And I know people have got a lot more time in the hands at the minute with this sort of lockdown, but that's where we should be helping one another and you know what I mean, and looking out for each other's mental health and going straight into it, safeguarding one another.
yeah.
People throw around. You would have seen it yourself, Kurt. People are throwing around terminology about certain things and have no idea what these fucking words mean, man. You know,
But the worst thing is some of them are the companies themselves. Like I spoke to Mize about it as well, and again, he's similar to us where we work in a world where safeguarding is really important, and you can tell what's just a quick Google job of safeguarding template, and then they've posted it within 5 minutes, and it's like
fucking, yeah,
that's
it's
bad.
ridiculous.
Whereas I'll give them credit, BWR based like Grimsby area, they spent time working on their safeguarding like list and stuff like that, and that's what you're doing. Like
Yep.
those that have within an hour of the speaking out movement get a safeguarding thing posted. I'm sorry, but that's just a generic copy and paste. So I'm like, I've read that before. I've read
It's
that before.
copy and paste job, yeah. And you could see people were doing that. And let's be honest, fucking hell, if you're doing that, then all you're fucking doing is you're not even bothered about what's happened.
Yeah,
You're just trying to save your own fucking horses. So realistically, you're as guilty as fucking anyone else.
yeah,
Oh, just for some fucking, just so your promotion carries on, you're just gonna copy and paste it. And like I said, you would have seen the ones that are fucking
yeah,
copied and pasted. Because when you work in the education setting, and in sort of young people or any sort, you can see a fucking mile off where something is personalized or where something is generic.
but I think as well it was pressure from fans because fans are like, why haven't you spoken about this? Why haven't you set your safeguarding or things like that? It's like they could be doing it behind closed doors. And I think somebody mentioned progress. Like the amount of talent in progress that had done shit was rife and horrible, and it was very badly managed from the get-go. And they took a step back and did it properly. And I saw somebody I think it was on Facebook, well, you've not done this or you've not done that. And I think it was about the progress promo of that they're coming back and stuff like that. And somebody commented was like, yeah, they have. They took ages to do it because they went through it properly and then did a whole press release about it. And I think that's what it is. Just because people may not be vocal about it doesn't mean they don't stand with it. I think Zack Sabre Jr. got shit for it. And a lot of it was his friends. A lot of his friends would have been named in this speaking out stuff. It doesn't mean he's standing with them if he's not spoken about it. Not everybody needs to put their personal life on social media.
No, exactly. It's not fair for people to put pressure on other people for things that they don't necessarily need to, you know. But it's like you said. I think a lot of the fans or the people, sometimes they were just doing it for fucking follows and likes and you know, a little bit of clout.
Yeah.
And you just think, fucking hell, like in the real world, in real life, I probably wouldn't even give you a fucking second look, mate. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to be rude when I say this, right? But I'm just saying, your fucking opinion probably wouldn't, if we were sat on a fucking table discussing, your fucking opinion probably wouldn't even be that relevant.
Yeah.
However, on fucking social media, because you're hid behind a screen, you're jumping up and down. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't want to. I know you've talked a lot about this in terms of sort of the speaking out and how things have affected it. So I didn't really want to go too much into it, but I just thought I'd sort of give you my opinion and some of the things in that sense. Really.
No, I think it was needed, but like hopefully, like when WWE come calling again, that can happen, and especially if you do get an opportunity with like NXT India, I think you'd have a lot to offer there and
appreciate
stuff.
that. It's very kind of you. Yeah, thank you.
Like first off, thanks for coming on, man. Like it's been a lot of fun, and I'm not just saying that. We've been speaking for like 2.5 hours. The missus is going to be wondering where I am, but like, where can people find you on social media?
So Instagram is at Sheikh El Sham, and Twitter. I'm probably more sort of frequent on Instagram than I am on sort of Twitter. I need to get sort of better at utilising Twitter, but just choose to kind of be a little bit quiet on it sometimes. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, Kurt. Thank you so much for having me. And I've genuinely, the story that I've told sort of about my parents not knowing and the football side of that, nobody's ever been told that before. So it's
well, I'm glad I could get that out of you.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Well, everybody, make sure you do go follow Sheikh El Sham on social medias, and yeah, best of luck with the WWE stuff as well. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. I do now have merch release, so head over to the merch stand. That brings you guys in worldwide as well. There's the Scandigraph stuff that I've been creating, and there is the like international wrestling podcast stuff. So have a look at those two sections from my merch. And again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Until next time.